Howdy, everyone. Welcome back to the Roompact podcast, an RA 360 special. And today we're talking about a fulfilling part of being in the RA role, which may not always be programming, bulletin boards, or even duty rounds, but it's the moments when someone knocks on your door because they trust you enough to talk to you. Oh, how cute, how heartwarming. And so sometimes residents come to you because they're homesick. It's a roommate conflict, academic stress, loneliness, relationships, family struggles, or things they've never told anyone before. And while RAs are not counselors or therapists, that is important to keep in mind. They are often the first person someone turns to. So today's episode is called Why People Come to You, What They Really Need. And we're talking about emotional intelligence, trust, active listening, and how to support residents without feeling like you have to fix everything. And I'm joined today by a very special guest. I'm very excited. Iyanna Williams, a resident hall director with experience supporting both residents, RAs through difficult conversations and moments of care. Iyanna, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yes. Hi, guys. So nice to meet you all. My name is Iyanna Williams. As Anthony said, I am a hall director at Georgia Institute of Technology. I just wrapped up my first year as a hall director, and I work we do in residence life. So I'm happy to share this information with you guys.
Perfect. And the next question is, I want to ask, what initially drew you to this work of residence life?
So what drew me to this work is I was in your chairs. I was exactly where you guys are. I was an RA at my undergrad institution. I was the RA in my opinion. I thought I was the best. Um, and pretty much it was just really getting involved, helping my residents out, building a sense of community. While I was in undergrad, I was a childhood and special education major. And then I got to my senior year and I had to student teach, and I said, absolutely not. And I absolutely did not like teaching, not little kids at least. So I had a mentor in my life at that time who was my associate director. And she kind of was like, well, you're really good at this RA thing. You can do it full time. And I was like, really? And she was like, yeah, like you can get a master's in higher ed. And then I attended LSU, so Louisiana State University, go Tigers. I was a grad there in residence life. I got my master's there, and that was it. That started the path to residence life.
The rest is history. I love it. Perfect. Well, with that and all the experience you have, I want to ask, what's one quality that you think makes someone easy to talk to?
I think one quality that makes someone easy to talk to is vulnerability. So
Mhm.
being able to lead from a place of vulnerability and be open with your residents on what you struggle with, what you identify with, the things that you go through, it automatically humanizes you to your residents. Because I think when you're an RA, you come in as this authority figure and they're looking at you like, oh, you're the, I know y'all heard it before. Oh, you're the op, they the popo, they the snitches. And you need to vulnerabilize yourself just a little bit to make sure that they see that you're also a student, you're also human. And that was one thing I did as an RA that helped me build strong connections with my residents because I let them know, like, hey, I can't talk to you. This test is due at 12 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock. I need to get this work done. I can't fail this class. Or, hey, I'm super stressed. Or, hey, I got to see on this test. Like, I was just open with my residents. So I think
Mm.
vulnerability is the way to really let people know that they can come to you.
No, I love that. I didn't even think of that. I think of when I was an RA, I would tell people, "Oh yeah, I was homesick," and they're like, "You got homesick? You seem to enjoy yourself." I was like, "I was feeling terrible when I first moved here." So that's great.
Exactly.
I want to ask too. So you've talked about your experience. Did you see yourself to be a listener constantly, or was this something you learned over time with experience?
So I will say I definitely did not start off as a listener. I was a talker, and you would have thought I had two mouths because I talked more than I could listen. To say the least, I was definitely a talker. I think being an RA really showed me how to become a listener because I had to learn that my students didn't always come to me because they needed advice. They sometimes came to me because they just needed me to listen. So I think that was what kind of opened that mindset for me and like turned on the light bulb of like I need to listen more. And I think once that happened, I started to incorporate in my RA and even now as a hall director, when people come and talk to me, I always ask, hey, are you looking for advice? Are you looking for
Mm,
just someone to listen? Or are you just looking for me to be present in this moment because you need the support? So I think like learning that balance, but I had to learn that via being an RA. And one of my students actually told me, like, I feel like I talk to you, but I feel like you don't listen to me. And it kind of hurt me a little bit. And I had to like go
mm,
back and say, no, they don't need me to always talk. Sometimes they just need me to listen.
mm. I love that. Yes, I would agree. I'm also sometimes I talk too much, but it for sure took time. I did want to ask and kind of move us into the next topic of people opening up. Is we notice in residents' life that residents tend to open up to some RAs more than others. And so, why do you think residents connect more deeply with certain RAs? And I know you mentioned vulnerability as one.
hmm So I think it can be a multitude of things. I think it can be vulnerability. I think sometimes it can be simple identities and
Mm,
identity similarities, but also sometimes identity bias because you can only want to open up to this person because they're your own identity and you don't see somebody else as a help. So that can also be a thing. And then lastly, I think it's sometimes presence and like visibility. So sometimes the person who, and I tell my RAs this all the time, I don't need you to connect with every single student every time you see them,
mm,
but I need you to greet every student you see. So I don't need you to have a deep conversation, but I need you to greet them. And the reason I need you to greet them is because when they go through their hard times, they need to know this is the person who always say hi to me. This is the person who's always, how am I doing? Checks on me. They're not over invasive, but they genuinely care about me. And I think when students see that you care, they will be more willing to open up if they want to. And now don't force that, but like if they want to, you'll become a person just simply off the visibility and the presence and the always greeting. So you're showing care.
yeah. No, one thing I love about these podcasts is I always learn something new. And you just talk, I'm like, oh, I'm going to take that back with my staff. Maybe you don't need to talk, but you need to greet them. You need to
Yeah.
say hi. Hope all is going well. Have a good day.
hmm
No, that's great. That's great. And this kind of leads me into my next question is how can quieter or introverted RAs still create strong connections?
So the first thing I would say is lean into your introvertedness.
Mm,
I am someone I've never, and you guys can probably tell on this podcast, I've never been introverted a day in my life. However, I do tell my introverted RAs and even my introverted friends, you need to lean into that because there are residents on all of our campuses who are just
mm,
as introverted as you or more introverted. So I think sometimes to answer your question first, lean into that and think about how would someone connect with you. So maybe it's not doing the large scale programming that brings 100 people. Maybe
mm,
it is, hey, I'm in the lounge, I'm studying, come study with me because you know you're going to pull a different audience.
mm,
Or maybe it's, hey, I really like hiking and I'm an introverted RA. So I'm going to go on a hike and I'm just going to invite residents to come with me on this hike. And I've seen
mm.
this happen this year in my building where one of my RAs, he was in love with hiking. I said, so how about you do a hiking program? Like take them hiking. I don't recommend that all the time. That can be a liability, but like take them hiking. And it was one
Yeah.
of the best programs he felt fulfilled. And also the residents who went, he didn't have a lot of residents, there's about five who went, but those
Mm,
five residents to this day still tell me about how that was the best program they went to last year. So I think it's about leaning into your introvertedness. And I know this wasn't a part of the question, but I'm going to add this. One of the
yes.
biggest advices I give my introverted people, do not try to force yourself to be extroverted because we all see that you are uncomfortable. And you cannot build comfortability in uncomfortability for other people. That doesn't
Mm,
correlate. It's okay for you to be uncomfortable and get comfortable in the uncomfortable, but not in the sense of when we're trying to have you build community because you won't know how to do it because you feel in your uncomfortability at that moment.
mm,
So please do not think you have to be this extrovert because you're an RA. We know as professionals, we're looking for introverted, extroverted, and all the different things because our residents should be a representation of the staff that we select.
yeah. That's great. No. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that. I hope our RAs listening who do feel a little bit more introverted, hopefully you feel seen and you know that we're here to support you as well and we value you deeply.
Yeah.
But with that, I'm going to move us on to kind of the next topic of this, which is kind of the response once we've started to build these relationships. And so a lot of RAs will see feel pressure to know exactly what to say in difficult conversations. I know there's behind closed doors that happens at certain institutions, role playing going on to ensure, you know what to do in these exact scenarios, but you can't practice for everything. And so,
Mhm.
how should an RA respond when they genuinely don't know the answer or don't know what to say?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what you start with.
Yeah.
You start with, I don't know. Now, what you follow up, I don't know with is, but I will find out, or I will follow up.
Mm,
But it is okay to say, I don't know something. And
yes.
sometimes we think because we're in these positions, we have to know everything.
Mm,
In reality check, it doesn't matter what supervisor you have, and anywhere you're watching this video, I can guarantee you they also don't know everything. Sometimes we just don't know. I think it's all about when you don't know, be vulnerable in that moment and say, I don't know, but I can follow up, or I will try to get the answer, or I will look into this. But it is no shame to say, I don't know. And that goes for anything. That goes for resident conversations, that goes for hall director tasks and things. Whatever it is, if you don't know something, let people know so that we can help you. The worst thing you can do is fake like you know or give misinformation, especially when it comes to residents, because you're putting your level of trust in a weird space because now you're giving them incorrect information instead of just saying, I don't know, let me find out. And I think
mm.
sometimes a lot of RAs, my RAs are gonna watch this video, so shouts to them. Um, a lot of people just say things, and I'm like, guys, that would just say you don't know. It's okay to not know. Like it is totally normal to not know. We do not know everything. You are student leaders juggling 1,000 things with this position. It is okay to not know or just not remember.
Yeah.
Say that
Yeah.
and be honest.
No, I agree. The honesty is so important. And yes, perfect response.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask, what are examples of supportive responses that don't pretend to fix the situation? I know you said, I don't know. I'll look into it, but I didn't know if you had anything else you wanted to mention.
I would say some things I do to always, I understand where you're coming from.
Mm,
I think that is a good one because you're not saying it from a sense of like you've been through it, but you're saying I understand where you're coming from. So you're putting the ownership of their situation on them. I also think saying I hear you, I see
mm,
you. What do you need from me in this moment? I think just being
yeah.
supportive. And sometimes, and I tell any RAs this, go the extra mile to do the follow-up. You might not need to do every part to help a student, but I think sometimes just offering your presence, offering your support, offering that comfortability. So like if you're dealing with a hard situation and the student needs to go to the counselor, I'm not saying you need to sit in the counseling office with them, but I know when I was an RA and even as a hall director, I will sometimes ask the student, do you want me to walk over there with you? I'll walk with you. And if I can't do it, I can talk to my hall director. This is when I was an RA, but I can talk to my hall director and get permission or have someone else walk with that person. So it's like offer the support, be there as the person, but also remember follow up. I think a lot of times where we mess up our relationships is we don't follow up. We have these hard conversations
Mm,
and then we just act like it's gone. We act like it never
yeah.
happened. We move on. And follow up doesn't have to be this big thing, but it can just be like, hey, I know we talked last week. How are you doing this week? Or
Yeah.
sometimes if you know this is a student that's continuously going through issues, sometimes it's how you ask a question. Hey, what's one thing that happened this week that made you happy?
Mm,
So
yeah.
it's sometimes getting them to see that we don't need you to be perfect. We just want to see 1% better every day. And that's the goal in this. So that's what I would tell the RAs.
No, that's perfect. And that's great. That leads me into my next kind of segment, which is helping versus fixing. And so, what do you think is the difference between helping someone and then trying to fix them when these RAs are having conversations with the residents on their floor?
So I think the first thing is your job is not to fix.
Mm,
First, we do not pay you enough to fix anything. We do not pay you enough. You are a student. We do not pay you to fix things. What we pay you to do is to try to assist. So fixing to me is
mm,
you taking this problem and you taking ownership of it and you say, I'm gonna solve this. That's not what we want to see. What we want to
mm,
see is, hey, this is your problem. I'm here to support you. Let me help you by using our resources, whatever we have to assist you in this problem that is yours. Fixing makes you take ownership of the problem, and we do
mm,
not want you taking ownership of other students' problems. We want you to point them into the right direction and also give them the resources that is needed. However, what I will also say with this conversation is sometimes trauma can be passed on. So, also in this moment, we need you to be able to recognize when you are not the correct person to help someone. And that is also okay. Like it is okay to say this situation, hey, and I'll give a perfect example right now. Hey, I understand what you're going through. This situation is even a lot for me to handle, but let me get you someone who I think can support you in this moment because I'm not the person to help in this situation. That's how I would have that conversation. But sometimes I think we focus on trying to fix things too much or we try to help when we're not even checking our self-regulation to make sure that we are able to help this person. So I think those are the differences. And just remember, if you remember anything I just said, we don't pay you enough to fix it. We
mm.
do
Yeah.
not.
No, perfect. I think you summed that up greatly, Iyanna. So thank you.
No.
My next question is on a difficult balance. It can be a difficult balance in validating someone's feelings without overstepping your role. And so, how can RAs validate residents while still maintaining their healthy boundaries? I know you have already gone into that a little bit, but if you had anything else to say.
I would say it's all about language. So language is
Mm,
your biggest thing when it comes to validating but not overstepping. So I think like notice when I said I understand what you where you're coming from. I'm not saying
mhm.
I understand because I went through this, or I'm not saying no, that's not a big deal or that is a big deal. I think sometimes when we get to the going past our position is when we're like trying to justify or minimize or maximize that person's emotion. And we don't need you to do that. We need you to listen and help, but not necessarily gauge where they should feel on it because that's their emotions. That's not your emotion. So I think that's where we start. But it's all about language, just remembering. And if you don't know what I mean when I say language, just think to yourself, am I taking ownership of this or am I leaving the ownership with them? And if you feel like you're starting to take ownership of it, you know you're going beyond your role because ownership of another student's problem is not your responsibility. That was a bar that I didn't even know I was going to say.
Yeah, yeah, it was.
Sorry, I just thought of it after I said, okay.
And it's all perfect to everyone listening. We got it on recording.
Literally.
No, perfect. Thank you for that. And then with that, what advice with all these RAs, not they're thinking about language, they're having these conversations, it may be their first time if they're a new RA. So what advice would you give an RA who's worried about saying the wrong thing?
Don't be worried. We literally, you have to remember, and this is what I sometimes tell myself as well. Nothing you say, most things you say are not life and death, and we can always walk them back. So, like, if you're in your head in a conversation and you feel like you said something wrong, say what you need to say. And if you thought it was wrong, follow up with your hall director and say, hey, I said this. I don't think this was the right thing to say. How should I go about correcting it? Or, hey, I feel really uncomfortable. And I think that's something that I had to do with my RAs. Like a lot of them struggle with having these hard conversations So it got to a place where they would tell me, and I would say, okay, this is happening on your floor. Let's go have this conversation together. And we would sit in a room and have it together so they can see the way my language is, the way their language is, how to learn from it. So I think just don't be afraid to say the wrong thing. And sometimes you will say the wrong thing, and it's okay because your supervisor is going to come in and help you or show you
Hmm.
how to backtrack what you said in the right
Hmm.
way. So don't be afraid to. You have to have the conversations. We know you're not perfect. None of us are. You just have to admit to it and let it be known so that someone can help you.
No, that's great. And then I wanted to ask, we're running close on time. And so, what's one conversation you'll never forget, and why did it stay with you, particularly in residence life?
One conversation I would never forget is when I was an RA, my associate director pulled me to the side and she said, "You need to learn to listen more than you speak." And I said no, because everybody needs to hear what I'm saying and hear my opinion. And I think the moment that conversation was had with me and in the way it was had, she was a very direct person. So it was very much like, you're going to lose out on so much knowledge and opportunity because you don't know how to absorb what you're going through. So sometimes it's about sitting back and just listen. And if you're a processor, I am a processor, I will listen to something and it takes me like 2 days to dissect it because I'm going to have opinions on it for the first hour before I even let it go in. So if that's you, that's okay. But understand that sometimes it's okay to sit back, listen, understand perspective, and not always give an opinion. And I think if you do that with your residents, you'll be much, much better. But also, if you do that with your hall director, you'll start to think from a more larger perspective than just your RA perspective, which will help you when you get into the job field because you'll need to think from a bigger perspective than just your role, especially when you think about moving up.
Mm, no, that's thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
And I just wanted to, I appreciate it. I just wanted to say to everyone, this has been an important conversation because sometimes the biggest impacts that an RA can have is making it through simply being present for someone on your floor or your peers or whoever you meet on campus. And often residents need most isn't a perfect answer. It's someone who listens and validates and is vulnerable and helps them connect to those resources to provide support. And so before we wrap up, I wanted to give you one last chance to any final message you have to the RAs listening or for something for them to remember and how can they connect with you after?
Yes. So the message I would have is to you guys is you're in this position for a reason. You were chosen out of a bunch of other people who wanted this position. So take pride in it, do your best. And if your best is not 100%, that is also okay. Just try to be 1% better each day in this role, and you will be perfectly fine. We want to see progression, not perfection. And I think sometimes a lot of RAs, you guys focus on perfection so much and we're not even perfection. So it is okay to not be perfection. Just remember progression. And then that's for the RA role. I got to leave y'all with something for life as well. Your crown is waiting for you. You just have to be okay with accepting it and putting it on. So that's beyond this role, that's beyond anything. Just remember, you are royalty, you are worthy, you are enough. And once you normalize that to yourself, wear your crown and wear it on your head and put your head up high because you deserve to be in every room that you step in. To stay connected to me, please add me on LinkedIn. If you want to have a conversation, message me. I also do have an Instagram. It's called the First Gen Voice. You can kind of follow my higher ed lifestyle on there. I post a lot about the things we do within my work, whether that's professional or just in my hall. So if you want to have a conversation and if you need more tips on how to connect with your residents, talk to the people on your campus, text me, message me. I do reply, I follow back, all of the great things. But I would be lovely to connect with any of you all.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Iyanna. You have been amazing. I appreciate your wise words. I really enjoyed this episode, and I know I've taken away a lot, so I know the students will as well. And to everyone listening, remember that you do not have to carry every problem on your shoulders to make a meaningful difference. Sometimes just showing some care, listening, and helping someone feel less alone is far more powerful than you realize. We'll see you next time here on the RA360 episode of Roompact. Bye.